Some faces just stop you cold. And when people first saw B. Howard perform, that's exactly what happened. The cheekbones, the voice, the way he moved across a stage. It didn't just remind people of someone, it haunted them. Because the someone it reminded them of was Michael Jackson. And once that thought entered people's minds, it absolutely refused to leave. Brandon Howard is a real musician, a genuinely talented one. Singer, songwriter, performer, the man has put in serious work, built a catalog, earned a fan base. But the moment the wider world started paying attention, they weren't talking about his music. They were talking about his face, his jaw, his eyes, the eerie, almost impossible similarity to the king of pop. And the whispers that started as quiet questions very quickly became something much louder. But here's the thing, where there's smoke, people always go looking for fire. His mother is Miki Howard, a celebrated R&B and jazz singer who was active in the industry during the exact same years Michael Jackson was at the absolute peak of his powers. Same world, same era, same circles. That proximity was all the internet needed. The question became irresistible. Was there something between Miki Howard and Michael Jackson? And if so, what did it produce? The rumor mill didn't just spin. It caught flame. Then 2014 arrived. And everything exploded. Michael Jackson had been gone for 5 years. The world was still grieving, still obsessed, still hungry for anything connected to his legacy. And then a story dropped that sent shockwaves through every entertainment outlet on the planet. A DNA test, claiming, with a stated 99% accuracy, that Brandon Howard was biologically related to Michael Jackson. That number, under normal circumstances, would be earth-shattering. But here's where the story starts getting very complicated. The sample used wasn't a blood draw. It wasn't a court-verified hair follicle. It was a dental imprint, allegedly belonging to Michael Jackson. Right there, alarm bells should start ringing. Because the chain of custody for a dead celebrity's dental imprint is, to be generous, deeply questionable. Where did it come from? Who preserved it? Who verified it was even real? The company behind the test generated massive headlines and massive skepticism from experts who actually understand how DNA science works. Almost immediately, forensic specialists and legal voices began raising red flags. And what they found did not hold up. The tests were ultimately categorized as inconclusive. Not proof. Not evidence. Inconclusive. The Jackson Estate, an organization whose entire job is to protect Michael Jackson's legacy, issued absolutely no response. Not a denial. Not an acknowledgement. Complete silence. And crucially, no lawsuit was ever filed. Because if you genuinely believed you had a 99% DNA match to one of the wealthiest estates in entertainment history, you would call a lawyer. You would pursue your legal rights. That never happened. So what did the man at the center of all this actually say? Because B. Howard's response is honestly the most surprising part of the entire story. He didn't hide. He didn't lean into the attention. He stepped in front of a camera, looked directly into the lens, and delivered one of the most calm, measured statements you will ever hear from someone inside a media firestorm. He had never contacted TMZ. He had never claimed to be Michael Jackson's son. He had no intention of suing the estate. He stated it plainly, clearly, without drama. But then he said something that made everyone lean in a little closer. He admitted he had taken a personal DNA test, privately, for his own reasons. And he said he had been taken care of very well. 5 words. And they've been echoing ever since. Taken care of very well. In the context of a possible secret child and one of the most valuable entertainment estates in history, that phrase does not sit quietly. Taken care of by whom? Under what arrangement? In what capacity? Howard did not elaborate. He redirected to his music, talked about his vision as an artist, and moved on. But those words stayed in the air, loaded, unexplained, and impossible to ignore. That lingering ambiguity is exactly why people kept digging. But once you step back from the speculation and look at the actual evidence, the picture changes considerably. The forensic experts were nearly unanimous. A dental imprint is not a valid or accepted source for DNA comparison in any legitimate scientific or legal context. No credible chain of custody was ever established. The methodology didn't hold up to scrutiny. Wikipedia's documentation of the incident categorizes the results as unverified and inconclusive. Entertainment attorneys who specialize in estate law noted that the legal pathway, if there were any real credible claim, was obvious. File for court-supervised DNA testing using verified samples, let the legal process run. That process never began. The estate never engaged. And Miki Howard, the one person who would know the truth definitively, has never publicly confirmed any romantic relationship with Michael Jackson. In an industry full of tell-all memoirs and candid interviews, that silence means something. But here's the angle almost nobody is talking about, and it might be the most important part of this whole saga. Brandon Howard is a working artist, a man who has spent years building something real, developing his craft, creating music that is entirely his own. And for over a decade, every single conversation about him has been hijacked by a story he never started and has consistently tried to shut down. Every interview, every article, every search result. The lead is never his music. It's always the same dramatic question about a dead legend. Think about what that does to a career. Think about what that does to a person. He wanted to be known for his voice, his songs, his artistry, not for his cheekbones and someone else's legacy. And yet here we are, and the most viral content connected to his name is not a song. It's a thumbnail asking whether he's Michael Jackson's secret son. There is something genuinely unfair about that. Whatever the truth of his parentage, and let's be clear, the truth remains unverified, Brandon Howard is a human being, and the endless recycling of this story does real damage to his career and his reputation. The cruel irony is that the mystery only stays alive because he refuses to feed it. If he confirmed it tomorrow, the story would eventually find its ending and fade. If he leaned into it and built a brand around the connection, the internet would reward him handsomely. His refusal to do either of those things is exactly what keeps the engine running. The mystery is the fuel. So after all of it, the DNA tests, the viral speculation, the expert skepticism, the estate silence, and Howard's own carefully worded statements, where does the truth actually land? Here is what we know. Brandon Howard exists. He is talented. He bears a striking physical resemblance to Michael Jackson. His mother moved in the same industry circles during the same era. A DNA test in 2014 made a dramatic claim. That claim was deemed inconclusive by experts, ignored by the estate, and never pursued through any legal channel. And Brandon Howard's response has been consistent, measured, and focused entirely on his music. Here is what we do not know. Whether Michael Jackson and Miki Howard ever had a romantic relationship. Whether the DNA test used legitimate samples. What taken care of very well actually means. And the truth of Brandon Howard's biological parentage, because the only evidence ever presented didn't survive scientific scrutiny, and it has never been tested in a court of law. What this story really reveals is something fascinating about celebrity culture itself. A good mystery is more powerful than an answer. Uncertainty drives clicks. Speculation drives engagement. And when the subject is someone as iconic as Michael Jackson, people will keep coming back no matter how thin the evidence gets. The mystery is the product. Brandon Howard has handled all of it with a kind of quiet discipline that's genuinely rare. He doesn't perform outrage. He doesn't litigate it publicly. He states his position, redirects to his work, and moves on. In a media landscape that expects celebrities to perform their drama out loud for engagement, that restraint is remarkable. Does that mean there's nothing to the story? Not necessarily. The resemblance is real. The timeline is interesting. The phrase taken care of very well is still sitting there, unexplained. There are enough loose threads that curious people will keep pulling on them for years. But here is the honest truth. After more than a decade of speculation, we don't know. We genuinely do not know. And unless Brandon Howard pursues legal verification, or someone with direct knowledge comes forward with credible information, we may never know. What we do know is that Brandon Howard is still here. Still making music. Still building his career on his own terms. Still refusing to be defined by a story he did not write. And in a media world absolutely ravenous for celebrity secrets and legacy drama, that refusal might just be the most interesting thing about him.